there was some interesting information that came out today from ESPN, Jordan Reed in an article there, and it has to do with Brian Gutekunst being at wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan's private workout. So let me just read this here. This is from, as I said, Jordan Reed, ESPN. Arizona wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan held a private workout for scouts Monday afternoon, participating in the 40-yard dash and running routes. The three evaluators I talked to were very complimentary of his performance. Times range in the 4.52 to 4.56 range for McMillan, which matches the speed scouts projected for him. Brian Gutekunst of the Packers was the lone NFL general manager in attendance, per sources. Along with Texas's Matthew Golden, McMillan is considered a strong contender to be the first receiver off the board and a fringe top 10 pick, number 15 in my top 50. So Gutekunst was the only GM at this private workout for Tetairoa McMillan. There were, as he mentioned, scouts there, so I assume that lots of these scouts will report to their GMs. But I don't think it's nothing that Gutekunst felt the need to watch McMillan and to be the only GM who happened to be there. That is interesting. Doesn't mean, the Packers will draft him. I mean, he may not even be available when the Packers pick at number 23. I think lots of people see him going earlier than that. But it is something to, put in the back of your mind to remember as we head into the draft, because we know for years and years the Packers have not targeted receivers round one. It's been since 2002, but Tetairoa McMillan is someone that would be intriguing if he came to Green Bay if he were available, and maybe Gutekunst likes him enough to say let's trade up and bring him in. And as I was thinking through this earlier today after seeing this news, trying to imagine what McMillan could bring to the Packers offense and how he could fit here. Christian Watson's down with the ACL injury, and so the Packers lose that deep threat. A guy who ran a 4.36 40, a guy who was 6'4". And here we have with McMillan, someone who doesn't have the same kind of speed as Christian Watson, as you saw there, 4.52 to 4.56, so a little slower than Christian Watson. But he has the size. PFF has him at 6'5", 212. I saw somewhere say 220. And so while he may not have that deep speed, he has the size to, go up for contested catches. And someone like Jordan Love, who loves to be aggressive, he just seems to be a really solid fit. Just someone who, Love can say, oh, he's somewhere out there, let me just chunk it to him. And you would have some kind of confidence he could come down with it just because he's 6'5". And so the idea of him in Green Bay, it intrigued me the more I looked into it. And I was looking into his, deep yards and deep stats to see, okay, could he fill in that Christian Watson role even though he's not quite as fast? Last year, according to PFF, he was 10th most in deep yards among receivers in college, and he was tied for 10th most deep receptions, and he has 16 yards per reception in his career. So he's pretty solid when it comes to, racking in those catches deep down the field, and I think it's because he's pretty shifty, even though he's not quite as fast in the 40, but he can move. He's great after the catch. He has some strong hands. I think his drop percentage in college is about 5%, which is pretty solid. And so even though he doesn't have the speed, as I said, he could fill that deep role and open things up deep just because of his size and what he can do there. So would the Packers really select him if he's available? It's possible. And the fact that Gutekunst was there, maybe that means something. Maybe Gutekunst is really interested in this guy. And personally, if you guys have watched my channel for at least a little while, I am wanting the Packers to go edge rusher round one. But as I thought through this today, it would be something. I mean, if this happened, if the Packers traded up for McMillan or landed him at 23, I'll be pretty intrigued and pretty excited. I feel like wide receivers are more of a flashy type, draft move, something that gets you a little more excited. But at the same time, I think edge rusher is just such a much bigger need. And because the Packers have had so much success drafting receivers after round one, I just don't think they need to go receiver round one, even though they technically could. There's a lot of other great options. I think Matthew Golden is another solid option from Texas. And looking at some of those deep stats with McMillan today, I also noted some with Matthew Golden, who's shorter, 6 feet tall, not 6'5", 5 inches shorter than McMillan, but he's faster, 4.29 40, 8th in deep receptions, 14th in deep yards. So there's a few guys who I think could make sense in round one. I would prefer the Packers to go edge rusher, but McMillan and Green Bay would be exciting. And I think, too, when you look at the fact that Christian Watson is in the final year of his deal, ACL injury, has dealt with lots of injuries. The Packers, if they went with McMillan, that could sort of be their answer for the next few years where you have him on a cheaper kind of deal, and then you maybe move on from Christian Watson if things don't, work out there. But it's a potential option. If you guys want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.